get started, everyone, with the program. And let's tell you that, well, Nigeria seems to be experiencing, or is experiencing, some very troubled time. Not talking about generally now, specifically tonight in the area of security, because there are other challenges in several other areas. But specifically now in the area of security. A few days ago, some kidnapped victims from the Kaduna train attack were released by the terrorists. And this was what the President Muhammadu Buhari had to say in respect of negotiation and release of these kidnapped victims. Take a listen to him.
There have been several actions taken from the moment the incident occurred on the 28th of March by various government officials to not only ascertain the extent of fatality and damage caused by the actions of these terrorists, but also how to best bring succor to the affected families and ensure that such an occurrence never again takes place in our country. I have been informed that at last count, there remain about 31 people in the hands of the kidnappers, and our determination is to work towards returning these 31 people to their families. It is understandable that emotions typically run high. We have received several suggestions about the employment of lethal military force in extracting those still being held in captivity. This option has indeed been considered and evaluated. However, the condition to guarantee a successful outcome and minimize potential collateral damage could not be assured, and therefore that course of action had to be reluctantly discarded. My primary concern is to get everyone released safe and unhurt.
President Muhammadu Buhari, on the day that he met some of the victims of the Kaduna train attack who were kidnapped. Now, the military announced that some of the attackers of the Owo church attack have been arrested. Allow you to also remind you of what the Chief of Defense Staff said.
To very heartwarmingly present to you that we've done quite a lot, and it's my pleasure to also let you know that starting with the Owo church attack, we have arrested those behind that dastardly act. It was my intention to present them to the public, but of course, because of certain investigations were still carried out, I had to, on the last count, change my mind, and otherwise I would have brought them here for you to see them. And I'd like to say that in due course, you will see them. Not just those ones, but of course those who have been at the heart of very daring attacks, those who have turned themselves to men of evil to put our nation under the kind of desperation that we've had in the past few months.
Well then, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo, the military says its troops of Operation Hayden Kai, operating in the northeast region, have rescued another Chibok girl and 3 others abducted by Boko Haram terrorists over 8 years ago. Boko Haram terrorists had in April 2014 kidnapped 276 female students, mostly Christians, aged from 16 to 18, from the government girls' secondary school in the town of Chibok in Borno State in northeast Nigeria. I'm giving you all of this background of the recent security situation and activities of the military so we can get in the mood of our first discussion for tonight. Now, also, part of what the military said during the week was that everything is fine as far as preparation for the election is concerned, security-wise. Now, let's take a look at what the recent events have been on the nation, the challenge of the security architecture, and perhaps we might be looking out for a solution, especially when government is involved. And a member of government is going to be talking to us on the program tonight. Joining us from our Maiduguri studio is the chairman of the Senate Committee on the Army, Senator Ali Ntume. Thank you so much, Senator, for joining us tonight. I appreciate your time tonight. I think we should begin the conversation by asking you, I know you and I, we have had discussions on the security situation in the country, but tonight, the event of the past few days probably would have taught us some lessons and given us some insight into where we are, where we're coming from, and where we are headed. From your own mind, the arrest, the release of some of these kidnapped victims, and the Chibok schoolgirl that was rescued by the military, and the recent military operations that we have seen, they said that they've decimated some of their hideouts. What lesson do you think, as a senator who is superintending or who has an oversight on the army, what lesson do you think as a nation that we have been able to get out of these events of the past days?
Well, the first one, which is the release of the Kaduna train attack victims, is a natural one based on the conditions given by the kidnappers, and I believe they have been settled, and that's why they released those families. As for the Chibok girl, that is also a good development. And as for the action taken by the army, that is an action expected of them. But that goes to show in total that if the army has the number, the equipment, I mean the modern equipment that they require, they can tackle this problem within the shortest possible time. I will say it again. The purpose of government is security and welfare of its citizens. The Nigerian army don't have the number. They don't have the equipment. They don't have the technology that is required to solve or handle these challenges that we have. The earlier we prioritize this seriously and even declare some kind of state of emergency in the area of security and welfare of Nigerian citizens, the better for us, because that is what the government is all about. The Constitution is very clear. It says that the purpose of government is security and welfare of its citizens. The earlier the government and the people of Nigeria and in all the arms of government concentrate on making sure that our country is secured and our citizens' welfare is taken care of, the better for us.
Now, let's go to specifics now. I just wanted an overview first and foremost. Now, to the specifics. The link of terrorism, because in the last over 15 years now, those who are in the academic or those who have been following the events of terrorism in Nigeria might want to put their finger on what happened in Maiduguri some years back and say, okay, maybe that was the recent origin of the modern day terrorism in Nigeria. Now, for what we saw in Ondo State and the arrests that have been made, and the details, or the little details that we have in respect of that attack, what do you think went wrong? Where is the linkage between the northeast region of the country and the southern region of the country? What do you think must have happened?
Well, Sean, let me also say again that I don't like discussing events or people. I prefer discussing ideas. I said the Nigerian army that I know is up to the task if they are given what they need. And then if they are given what they need, they should be given a timeline. The issue of this historical or academic thing is not really my business, and it's not something that I want to get into. I oversight the military, and that's why you invited me, particularly the army. I know what they can do, I've seen it, and I know what they need, and I know what they have on ground. The Nigerian army is not well equipped. They don't have the number. We still have in this challenge less than 200,000 army put together, and they are not well funded. You can imagine last month it was their salaries were even paid lately. In fact, their capital, which is very small compared to the Nigerian budget, was only released. Only 50% of it was released just I think this month. With a situation like this, I don't think we are serious. And I think we need to be serious because the situation is getting out of hand. Every day you hear of bandits moving freely, attacking villages, kidnapping and destroying. In the northeast, well, we are better off now than before. And as you know now, I'm speaking to you from Maiduguri, and I left my house, which is about maybe 5-10 kilometers from here, to be in your studio. That means Maiduguri is, in fact, I can say is safer than Abuja. I've said it before. The only thing is that Maiduguri is enclosed. It's just like a rat hole. Once you are in the hole, you are safe. But you can't go outside Maiduguri, for example, around this time, which is after 8 o'clock. And so what I'm thinking, I'm not just really interested about I'm not interested in lamenting. All I'm saying, and using this medium, coming here to say that the government should be serious. The government should put in everything that they got in order to make sure that Nigeria is secured internally. As it is now, most of the states, except yesterday I was trying to count with my friend which state in the north is relatively safe. And where they don't have these serious issues of kidnappers. And you can count, out of the 19 states in the north, you can only count maybe 2 or 3 states that you can say are relatively safe. And the government should make the country safe. That is the purpose of government. They should put everything they have. We should put everything that we have to make sure that our country is secured internally.
Senator, I know that you're a man who wants to talk about what you want to talk about. But then, you see, the conversation where we invited you for is about the security of Nigeria, and as it relates to the military, the army, for example, that you oversee, they have oversight function or role over. And the reason why I asked that question, you are saying that Maiduguri is relatively safe, and that used to be, or is, the theater of the terrorist war by the military on the terrorists. Now, we've seen terrorists attack in other parts of the country. And so that's why I was asking, we hear things like they have been highly bombarded and being chased away from the northeast, and that is the reason why we're seeing them moving southward. And that's why I was asking you, but look, give us an idea, where do you think the gap really is in this old game?
Well, I didn't hear the last part, but the gap is in the number and the availability of equipment. If the Nigerian Army, the Nigerian Air Force, SSS, and all that have what it takes, then if you as you rightly said, maybe the terrorists are finding it very difficult to operate in the northeast, are now moving to particularly north central. But those that are operating in north central, based on the outcome of the arrest that they made on those that attacked the church in Owo, and discovered that most of them are coming from a particular state in the north central. And they call themselves the Ansar. That is another new sect of terrorist cell that is developing in the north central and spreading to northwest, especially Kaduna State. the Nigerian government or Nigerians are aware of this since the time we had the split in the terrorists or the insurgents camp, where we have the ISWAP and then the Boko Haram that was led by Shekarau, and then now we have another group called Ansar operating in the North Central, but I don't know whether they have identified the leadership of that group, and they are the ones that are terrorizing the people of Northwest and North Central. The government, as I said, if they have what it takes, and the Nigerian Army, Air Force, and other security agencies, if they have the number, they can deploy people to those areas. They can deploy the technology they have to those areas. They can deploy the equipment they have to those areas. But we still don't have enough of those equipments, especially attack helicopters from the air, and we don't have drones enough that will do surveillance. We don't have the number of the foot soldiers that will be on ground. We don't have the number of police. We don't have the number of intelligent officers, and even with that, even if you have, they don't have the necessary equipment to carry out surveillance and all that. The issue is that we don't have what it takes to confront these people. That's why you can imagine people will be moving on motorcycle, with motorcycle, and attacking villages and getting away with it, operating on motorcycles. Not that they have vehicles, or especially those that are operating in those areas, Northwest and North Central. My point still stands on one thing. Give the Nigerian Army and security agencies what they need, and they will be able to address this. Forget about most of this spending on trivialities, and you can see that people are just taking money, stealing money left, right, and center, and then the country is burning. People are not secured, and nothing is being done, decisively about these things.
Now, Senator, what would you prescribe? You talked about the numbers of the troops. What number would you prescribe for a nation of 200 million when you say that we do not have enough of the soldiers? How many soldiers do you imagine should be in the Nigerian Armed Forces?
Well, for the Nigerian Armed Forces, if you look at it, it's not that the number is grossly inadequate. But because the Nigerian Army is engaged in internal, operations, which is not their really business, if we were to have the army that we need to just stand by and then defend the territorial integrity of the nation, as that's their major constitutional role, I'm looking at a figure of 500 to 1 million will be okay. But as for the police, because most of this job that we are calling about army is not actually their job. Internal security is not the business of the Nigerian Army, Air Force, and all that. It is only when you have in a situation, a severe situation, that you call in the army to support the police. We need to strengthen the police. We need to increase the number of police. If we, as it is now, our total number of police is not up to 400,000. And we have a population of over 200 million. If you do the calculation, it means that we have one police to about 25,000 or more of Nigerian, which is grossly inadequate. The Nigerian police, especially the mobile force, will need to be properly equipped. The number have to be increased. They need to be trained adequately. In those days, the mobile police, when you see them, you know that whatever problem we have in that area will be solved within a day or two, once the mobile police move in. But it's a different ball game together. We are not even talking, you have not been talking about police now. You have not been talking about some other security agencies that will complement the activities like civil defense and others. So we need to have more civil police. We need to have more police in this country. I'm looking at the number of 1 million, 1 to 2 million for a country like ours. And the thing is, we have the youths. We have thousands of our youth, millions of our youth out there unemployed. Anytime the Nigerian army, the Nigerian police open its portal for recruitment, you will see that they will have more than 100 times the number that they want to recruit. And we have a problem at hand. Why don't you recruit more police, recruit more security agencies, and equip them properly in this modern time that you can easily use technology to do so many things? We find it easy to bug people's telephone, and you don't bug the bandit telephone. They call people on the phone, and nobody will tell you where they are. I mean, these things, it doesn't add up. And every time, you hear people who just say they condemn this and it is only historical. Every day, even yesterday in my local government, one of my relatives went to the farm and he was shot. He's now in the hospital. Last week, one of them was killed in the farms, and we're counting numbers. But yet, Nigerians are so resilient, they still go there to their farms. And as I said, for Borno State, we thank God, particularly in Maiduguri and other local government headquarters, you find people there and they're struggling with life. But the government is not doing enough in area of security and welfare of its citizens, which is why the government is there.
Okay, so you've talked about the numbers and what needs to be done. But when you say enough is not being done, then we need to narrow it down to who should be taking responsibility within the rank and file of government and the entire architectural frame of government. When you say government is not doing enough, who should we be questioning? Who should we hold accountable? Whose failure has it been over the last few years?
I said in the last program that the president is the commander-in-chief. The buck stops at his table. The president is responsible for not only the security and welfare of its citizens, but everything that happens within his tenure as a Nigerian government. President Muhammad Buhari is responsible for that. And I think he understands that. So it is not, what I'm not comfortable with, I said it before, is for the president to be directing. He is not a director-in-chief. He is commander-in-chief. The president should take up and do what it requires of him as the commander-in-chief. And as I said, for him as a president, it is him that God will ask. For me as a senator in Southern Borno, it is me that God will ask whether I have represented or said or talked on behalf of people, or I have executed my mandate as their representative in the National Assembly. So it is not like you are looking for somebody who is to do that. It is the president. The president can, now, after this, even this program, he can appoint anybody to do so thing. He can direct them to do so. But he is the commander-in-chief. He is the commander-in-chief. So he is the one that is responsible. The service chiefs are appointed by him at his pleasure and then approved by the National Assembly.
Since the heat and the pressure from the National Assembly, which brought up the issue of ultimatum and the threat of impeachment, has there been any kind of improvement or any kind of change or reaction from the president's desk or table that you think is reasonable enough from your own point of view?
Well, I've been in Maiduguri all this time and I heard about this. You know, this issue of even talking about going further or reaching out for impeachment, I really don't want to talk about it because I've said it. I've seen a video of my presentation in the National Assembly a year or two ago where I said, look, if somebody is not doing what he's supposed to be doing, if he's not doing what he's doing, we have the constitutional right to ask the question and then ask for more action, get more results. Otherwise, we take appropriate action as prescribed in the Constitution. Talking about impeachment at this time now and all that, I don't think that is the issue. The issue is to solve the problem of security, whether...
so the question I'm asking, Senator, is whether or not the heat that was coming from the National Assembly has done any work at all. I mean, whether or not we've seen any kind of improvement in the security framework of the nation.
What I see, as I told you, I oversight the military. They are really trying their best under the circumstances they find themselves, very difficult one. And there are people that don't complain, but once they have what they need, they will be able to do it. But how can they perform when, for example, you have a 17 trillion budget and the capital allocated to defense or security agencies is insignificant, yet you expect performance? You really don't, it doesn't add up. The Nigerian Army budget, which I know, is less than 30 billion. And even that, half of it was, I think it was only half of it that was released to them, and that was only 2 weeks ago. And you know what capital means? That is the money they are supposed to use to buy ammunition and all that. And we just have 15 billion. And you have security challenges everywhere. I mean, are we serious? No. Ukraine, I mean, Russia and Ukraine are at war. You never hear them talking about the money they spend. They only, talk about what they have achieved or the losses they have incurred. And then they try to take actions appropriately. The government should, as I said, if necessary, declare security and welfare of its citizens as a state of emergency. Now, leave everything, concentrate on making sure that Nigeria is secured and Nigerian citizens' welfare is taken care of.
Now, Senator, when you're talking about money, so if you put the figures together, at least 4 trillion naira has been spent in the last 5 years on defense, and well over 8 trillion spent in the last 7 years. Before 2015, or when the government of the day came into power, there was a big question mark on the money spent in the defense sector and whether or not those monies that were voted went into wrong hands or individual pockets. Is there anything of sort happening right now?
Well, that I cannot know. That I cannot know. But I ask you a question, Sheung. If your house is on fire and you have to put off that fire, do you care about the quantity of water that you use to put up that fire? I don't think so. So if you say that about 8 or 4 trillion, I don't know, I can't remember the figure you're talking about, have gone into defense.
Yeah, about 8 trillion has gone into defense spending in 7 years, and about over 4 trillion spent on defense in 5 years. So the question is that, and then we're still battling it, and you said there is not enough funds. How much more do you think we should be spending? At least what percentage of our budget should go into defense yearly?
What the Nigerian Army needs is not the money even. What they need is to have the equipment and what it takes for them to work. And then, of course, they must be paid. And then when they are on duty, in call of duty, that is duty allowance, that will increase because they are out there. You can't send somebody out without. So it's not like asking, give me this, and then I solve the problem.
No,
that takes me back.
Senator, sorry, what I was actually asking is whether or not the monies that have been voted over the last few years have been properly utilized. If we are not going to find ourselves in the same situation where this government described pre-2015, that the monies meant for the military had gone into wrong or private ends.
Well, that I cannot say, Sheung. And I want, again, us to, shift from this kind of your discussion. What I would prefer is to say, look, I told you that this year, the budget of Nigeria is 17.1 trillion. That of the army, how much allocation is going to the army for capital, find that is insignificant. But a significant amount of money is being spent on their recurrent or overhead expenditure. But then go and then check the overhead expenditure of Nigeria in the 2022 budget. It's over 5 trillion. And people are working from home. People are not asking about those figures. You are asking about the figures spent on people that have put their life online. For me, even if we are to spend this year 10 trillion and we will be secured, I'm sure if you put that into vote, many Nigerians will support it. Because that's 17 trillion. And the army is getting only 30, for me, less than 30 billion as their capital. As far as I'm concerned, under this circumstance, all the resources, or more than half of the resources, should go into defense. And then when we are safe, then you can go back in your comfort and say, now that we are safe, this money that we have spent, what did you do with it? You can ask for the record, do some audit, ask questions. But as at now, what I'm concerned about, and what most Nigerians are concerned about, is for Nigeria to be safe, and Nigerians to be safe, and their welfare to be taken care of. So let's talk about what do we need to do after that. As I said, if you take a calculation of the overhead of the Nigerian army and the Nigerian army that are operating in almost all the states in the federation, their number, and then their duty allowance, the fueling, the equipment, medication, logistics, and all that. And then look at the situation we find ourselves. I don't like the idea of talking about what we spend when we're in trouble. Let's spend all the money and let's have peace.
Senator Aline Dume, Chairman, Senate Committee on the Army, thank you so much indeed for the insight that you've shared with us tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We take a break, everyone. But before we go on that break, let me show you what happened during the week. Well, this perhaps on a lighter note. Well, some of you must have seen it on social media and perhaps on Channels Television because we're live on the ground. Well, these are videos or it's a clip from Port Harcourt, River State. Governor Wike began a series of project commissioning and talks about controversies in the PDP. Well, in one of those commissioning, he's seen dishing out some dancing moves. Take a look.
As he dey pain them, he dey see with us. As he dey see with us, he go dey pay. As he dey pain them, he dey see with us. As we get there, he go bury them. Pain them, he dey see with us. As he dey see with us, he go dey pain them. See them pain them. Yeah, he dey see with us. As he dey see with us, he go dey pain them. As he dey pain them, he dey see with us. As he dey see with us, he go dey pain.
That's on our Did You See That segment, Governor Wike's dancing move. Up next on the program, we take a break, and when we return, our attention will be on the 2023 election and some of the controversies, preparations of INEC. INEC will be here on the program. I'll be showing you some figures that you need to take note as we head towards the campaign of the different political parties. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone. Welcome to back to the program. And let's move to this other side of the studio. I'd like to show you some figures that will give a background to our conversation tonight. I'm being joined on the program by INEC National Commissioner in charge of voter education and publicity. There's so much to talk about with Mr. Festus Okoye tonight. Thank you so much, Mr. Okoye, for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I'll have asked you to come to this side, but this is not analysis part of it. This is just for us to query some of the figures and get some insights from INEC and some clarification quickly. The last time we came to this board, I showed you that this was the figure, 84 million, the figure we took into the 2019 election. Don't forget. And keep that on your left arm, because I'm going back to that figure much later. Now, this is the newly completed figure that we gotten from INEC as far as this continuous voter registration exercise was concerned, which brought us to this figure, 96 million. Very important. Now, keep that on your right hand. 84 million in 2019. Now we have 96 million altogether between 12 million and 84 million that we have now. So in terms of the completed voter registration in 2019. So you can see, and you can be able to make sense of which region of the country has perhaps the highest voting population based on the voter register. Now, I'd like to make a clarification here that voter register is different from the permanent voters collected and those who show up at the election point, at the voting point. Now, so that is very important for those who will be querying that, oh, well, you have the figure, but how many of those have collected their permanent voter card? It's good to collect the permanent voter card because this figure will mean nothing if you have not collected. So I'm showing you the possibility or the potentials in each of the region. Now, as of 2019, 15.9%, that is the percentage of the highest voting population we have in the country. Now, and if you look at it, go to 24%, apologies please, 24% was the highest, which is in the northwest region of the country, followed by the southwest, which has 15%, north central, then the southeast comes with the lowest, which has about 13%. So you can make sense of that. Now, this is not as important as some of this, but in 2019, you have the top 10 highest the states with the highest voting population in the country, from Lagos to Kano to Kaduna, Katsina, Rivers, Oyo, Delta, Plateau, Benue, and Bauchi. These are the states with the top, which stands at the 10 top states with the highest voting population as of 2019. Now, let me give you a sense of what is happening now. The top 10 by registration. This is it. Now, for 2019, Lagos stands as the highest. Now, in 2022, based on INEC CVR, which was concluded a few weeks ago, and you put the figures together, gives Lagos still the highest number, which is 7 million. Now, Kano comes second already with 6 million, Kaduna with 4 million, Katsina with 3 million, River State in the south with 3 million, Oyo State in the southwest with 3 million, and Delta State in the south in 3 million. Plateau with 2.8 million, Benue State still in the north central 2.8 million, and Bauchi State 2.8 million. These are the states with the highest figure, and if you put 2022 and 2019 together. So the regions by registered voters, you can take a snapshot in your mind and see where it stands. Really, no significant change because of 2019 figure, put it together with 2022, it still gives us almost a similar picture from 2019 when I said, put those figures in the left hand and your right hand. Now, let's make sense more on some of these things. Now, these are the states where the highest registrant, you see, similar to what we got. Now, one thing that we need to get clarity on as I move over to speak with Mr. Okoye, first and foremost, is on the issue of this register that I've showed our viewers tonight. One thing is very clear. There will be a cleanup. Give us an understanding of what this cleanup is all about.
We started this registration using two pathways. The first pathway was for people to carry out what we call pre-registration online before completing their biometrics in our state and local government offices. Then the second pathway was for those who carried out what we call physical registration. Now, if you recall, when we completed the first and second quarter of the continuous voters registration process, and we carried out a cleanup. At the end of that cleanup, we discovered that 44.6% of all those who registered were either multiple or double registrants. Now,
for the registration we did between the 15th day of January 2022 and 31st day of July 2022, we are carrying out what we call adjudication as at present. In other words, we are cleaning up the voters register. At the end of this cleanup, these figures you are seeing will definitely come down because the multiple and double registrations that happened when we cleaned up the voters register for the first and second quarter also happened during this particular period. At the end of this adjudication, at the end of this cleanup, we will still display the voters register for claims and objections. It is at the end of this display and claims and objections that we are going to have a complete figure and a complete picture of the number of registered voters during this particular CVR. Yeah, it is thereafter that we now integrate this supplementary voters register with the main voters register, and then we get a complete picture of the number of voters that have registered for this particular period.
All right, because we have a lot of grounds to cover. Now,
yes.
In 2011, in 2015, INEC improved on its process of cleaning up its register. There is the AFIS, where you and give us an insight on how many stages or what are the steps in cleaning up this register.
Well, we carry out what we call deduplication using what we call ABIS. At the end of this particular process, if you carry that registration previously, for instance, in 2011 or in 2014, your name and your particulars and your data are already in the database of the commission. Now, during this particular period, if you go and register again, the implication is that you are engaged in multiple registration. And whether you registered previously in Lagos and now you registered in Kaduna or you registered in the FCT, when we carry out adjudication, your fingerprints will appear, your picture will appear previously, and the new registration you did will also appear. And then we will consider that you have done multiple registration, and we cancel your fresh registration. And that's exactly what we are doing. And we are almost completed the process of deduplication for this particular period.
Now, could it be the last voting registration that we could see before 2023?
Exactly.
There won't be any opportunity again.
We have suspended the CVR for this particular period.
So you're basically preparing to print the permanent voter cards after you've cleaned up the register?
In the next few days, the Commission will display the voters register in the 774 local government areas of Nigeria and in the 8,809 registration areas for claims and objections. In other words, those whose names were not properly spelled can check the voters register and fill the necessary form, and we
adjust it.
We adjust it. Those whose names we omitted, who registered, they can also complain, and we do the same. And those whose words have passed on can also complain, and we remove such names from the voters register. So immediately after these claims and objections, then we will go ahead to print the permanent voters, the PVC of all those who made the threshold for registration, and then those PVCs will also be trucked back to the various local governments and the various registration areas for purposes of collection.
Now, you heard what Serap said today, saying that INEC could face legal action if you do not allow 7 million Nigerians to get registered, and which, according to them, will have meant that you have disenfranchised those 7 million Nigerians.
Well, this is not the first time Serap is going to court. If you recall, they took the commission to court, claiming that we had no right, we had no locus, and we had no jurisdiction to terminate the voters registration process as at the time we terminated it. And the court came to a conclusion that came to a determination that the commission is the only commission, the only agency and the only organ that is constitutionally vested with the rights to register voters, update the voters register, and also revise the voters register. Secondly, the court also came to a determination that Section 9 subsection 6 of the Electoral Act must be read together with section 19 subsection 1 of the Electoral Act to have a clear picture of what the lawmakers meant when they said the registration of voters shall end not later than 90 days to the conclusion of the exercise. And the court came to the conclusion that when the lawmakers used the word not later than, that they used it in the context of the fact that to indicate that the voters registration process must be done before a certain date or a certain timeline. So it does not mean that we must wait until that 30 days elapses. If you look at section 19 subsection 1 of the Electoral Act, it says that the Independent National Electoral Commission shall display the voters register for claims and objections not later than 90 days before the date appointed for a general election. Then if you also look at section 9 subsection 6 of the Electoral Act, it says that the registration of voters, the updating of the voters register, and the revision of voters register shall end not later than 90 days. So the implication is that the lawmakers were very, very clear on the fact that for you to have a sense of what they meant, you must do a community reading of all these sections for you to come to a determination of what they meant. And what they mean in the true sense of the word, in reading the Electoral Act in the ordinary sense of it, is that you must conclude everything relating to voters registration before a certain date or a certain time.
So what the setup is saying is that 10,487,972 Nigerians carried out online or pre-registration or online.
Yes.
Only 3,444,378 completed the process at a physical center. Yes. And they are saying allow the 7 million that could not do that to do just that. Is that fair enough to just allow them?
I think they don't understand the processes and procedures of the commission. And if you don't understand the processes and procedures of the commission, the right thing to do, the honorable thing to do, and the rational thing to do is to come to the commission and ask questions, and we will oblige you. Now, the online registration was the commission's own initiative, because if you look at section 10 subsection 2 of the Electoral Act, it says that every person intending to register must present himself or herself physically to the registration officers of the commission. Now, the commission created the online platform in order to ease registration, in order to make registration seamless, so that you can complete all your data, and then at the end of the day, you just walk into a registration center and do your biometrics. Now, when we did the clean up for the first and second quarter of the voters registration exercise, we found out that 1.8 million of those who went online to do their pre-registration were those who were in diaspora, and they couldn't come back to complete the physical registration. We also found out that there were some people who started the online and abandoned the online and went and did physical registration. We also found out that there were some people who went to our portal, started and abandoned it, and then started afresh. So it is this figure, this combination of persons that the setup is claiming we are disenfranchised. Okay. So I think they don't understand our processes and our procedures.
So there is no need for legal action. So now, I want us to move on. There won't be CVR again until 2023. So, but when should we be expecting PVCs to be doled out or be given out to those who have rightfully and concluded their registrations?
Well, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, has told the nation that those who did their registration between the 15th day of January 2022 and 30th day of June 2022, that their PVCs will be ready for collection on or before October 2022. But those who register between the 1st day of July and the 31st day of July, that their PVCs will be ready on or before November 2022. And we are working assiduously to make sure that we realize this timeline.
So they can collect where they registered, actually?
Definitely, yes.
All right. Now, so quickly, clarify. I will show you some of the video. I'm very sure that you have seen some of these videos online. Permanent voter cards found in gutters, in very funny places. And people are worried that not only the fact that this is the monies that Nigerians have spent imprinting this. These are some of these that surfaced online. People are saying that, look, why is this happening? Where are the permanent voters cards that are not collected? Why are we finding out that these PVCs are just being found buried somewhere?
Well, the commission has appealed to those who claim they found these PVCs to make these PVCs available to the commission so that we can carry out thorough investigation, so that we can carry out a forensic analysis of some of these PVCs. All our efforts have not really yielded the positive results, but our office in Rivers have written a report to the chairman relating to their own investigation on some of these PVCs. And when we have a meeting, maybe on Thursday, the chairman will unveil this particular report, and we see what is in there. Those who claim they found in Lagos, we are appealing to them to come forward with these PVCs so that we can carry out our own investigation, and they have not come forward. So we appeal to their sense of patriotism. Let them come forward with these PVCs so that we can investigate whether these PVCs are PVCs of the commission or whether these are clone PVCs.
Uncollected PVCs, where are they? Because there are uncollected PVCs from 2015,
yes.
2019.
Yes.
Where are they?
These uncollected PVCs are in our 774 local government areas as of today. This is because people are coming forward to collect these PVCs, and our registration officers, when they were going around to register voters during this particular period, also went along with them the PVCs of people from the registration areas where they were operating. So these uncollected PVCs are in our local government offices as of today.
So what is the guarantee that some of these PVCs will not be used by unscrupulous persons or politicians who are willing to win elections by all means?
Well, if you have multiple or double PVCs, you have nothing. This is because the data of each registered voter in Nigeria is domiciled in the BVAS, and the data is the data domiciled in the BVAS is the data of each registered voter in a particular polling unit. So no BVAS will have the data of any registered voter in a different polling unit other than the polling unit where it has been configured. And on election day, yes, you can go with someone's PVC, and we will see the person on the voters register. We will see the picture of the person on the PVC. But when it comes to the issue of accreditation, your fingerprint will not be read, and your facial will not be read. So what you have is just you have air, you don't have anything.
Two quick questions before we close, Mr. Okoye. Clarify for us, in the case of Senator Godswill Akpabio and Senator Ahmed Lawan, what is going on? There are concern by people who are linked to these primaries and these the ticket, who are thinking that there are some dealings that they're not clear to them that needs clarification. What is going on with these two senatorial districts?
Whatever needs to be clarified, the commission has clarified. The commission has made it very clear that under Section 29, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act, it is the responsibility of a political party to forward to the Independent National Electoral Commission the names or the list and personal particulars of their members who emerge from validly conducted party primaries. In these two constituencies, two names were forwarded, and the commission made a determination that the names forwarded to us we are not persons who emerged from validly conducted party primaries, and we did not publish their particulars. And that is where we are. So the commission will not go out of its way to go and plead with a political party to forward the name of a candidate that emerged from a validly conducted party primaries. If a political party does not forward the name of a candidate that emerged from valid party primaries, the implication is that that particular political party will not have a candidate in the election for that particular constituency, and that is just the law.
So as far as you're concerned, or what you have with you, Senator Lawan and Senator Akpabio's names are not with you?
No, their names were uploaded by
APC.
By the APC to our candidates nomination portal. But the commission made the determination that they were not the candidates that emerged from valid party primaries. The commission did not publish their names and their personal particulars in their constituencies. So the implication is that as of today, the APC does not have a candidate in those two constituencies.
All right. Finally, and this is legal, and if you can do this for me in 30 seconds, I will be glad. Those who have raised controversy on those who have run for primaries, 2 different primaries, who have gone for nomination in 2 different primaries. What is the point of law? How does the law see them, and what is INEC doing? Because is INEC justified to look away in basically about what the new electoral act says?
Well, the conduct of party primaries is essentially within the domestic realm of the various political parties. The only thing the law says is that the commission should monitor the conduct of those primaries to make sure that the names that are submitted to the commission are the names of persons who emerge from validly conducted primaries. Now, the filling of nomination forms is a completely different issue. If you look at section 152 of the Electoral Act, it defines who an aspirant is and who a candidate is. And it is only candidates that fill nomination forms. Aspirants do not fill nomination forms. So it is only when candidates fill nomination forms that they come within the contemplation and come within the ambit of the Independent National Electoral Commission, and not before then.
Thank you, Mr. Professor Sokoye, for your time tonight. So much to talk about, but well, for those things that we are able to say, thank you for clarifying. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you so much.
That's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimbale. Bye for now.